We know that in the context of private companies, if a company forgives a debt to a shareholder or associate of a shareholder, that will be deemed dividend for the purpose of Division 7A. There is a specific section, 109G, subsection 4, which says that the commissioner has a discretion to essentially treat that as not being a deemed dividend where certain requirements are fulfilled. So the commissioner has to be satisfied that, firstly, that the debt was forgiven because payment of the debt would have caused, and when we say the entity, the shareholder or the associate, would have caused them undue hardship. And I'll come back to that PSLE momentarily. When the shareholder incurred the debt, they had the capacity to repay the debt. And finally, that the entity lost that capacity to repay the debt because of some unforeseeable circumstance, something that was beyond their control. So undue hardship, when you incurred the debt, originally had the capacity to repay, and then you've lost that capacity because of some unforeseeable circumstances. Mm-hmm. Now, what this particular ruling was about was we essentially had so we've got our private company, we had the shareholder. The company had obtained loans from the bank and the shareholder to acquire some property. There was some arrangements entered into whereby the property was transferred or was sold by the company to the shareholder. I should also say, while the company owned the property, it was being rented out for a period of time. So it was negatively geared, though, through the deductions, I should say. So as I said, agreements entered into, property sold to the shareholder. The shareholder then moved in. As a result of these agreements, it ended up that there was a debt owing from the shareholder to the company.
He did not pay for the property, I think, because he was in financial difficulty.
Yes.
I think that was the whole. He needed somewhere to live.
Yeah.
So he got the property out of the company and moved in.
Yeah.
Because he needed somewhere to live.
Now, obviously, they were aware of the fact that this debt was owed to the company, and so they put a Division 7A loan in place to deal with that. Mm-hmm. They then wrote into the ATO in this private ruling application and said, "Hello, Commissioner, would you please apply that discretion in 109G subsection 4, because if the shareholder has to repay this debt to the company, it's going to cause him undue hardship." So what the ruling does, it's very helpful. It goes through these three items you can see on the page there. Now, undue hardship, I know Jane and I were having a discussion about this the other day. It is a very, very high threshold. You are looking at, I think the wording that they use where you in this ruling is the deprivation of basic necessities of everyday life. So food, clothes, shelter, reasonable level of education, things like that. The PSLA has a lot of very helpful examples and things, different circumstances where it might arise. Mm-hmm. I know we probably don't have time to go into it today, but the circumstances where we've had success with, releases due to serious financial hardship are very, very sad, extreme circumstances. Mm-hmm. And basically in this ruling, the ATO just said, "I'm sorry, we know you're having a little bit of financial difficulty at the moment, Mr. Shareholder, but this is not causing you undue hardship in accordance with this practice statement." So no undue hardship was found there. The second thing was the ATO said your evidence in terms of the shareholder's capacity to repay the debt at the time the debt was incurred is all about this property having been rented and negatively geared due to the deductions. And so we don't actually think that proves that you ever had the capacity to pay this debt. And therefore, the last point, you can't lose something you never had. So no application there. I think it's just a good, a little FYI that this is available and it is something that can be considered, obviously, depending on the circumstances of your client.